Okay, so we're back. Part 3 here. So when I left you, we'd added 2 lights. They show up over here, Pixar standard area light. And I did a little tweaking in between while I was uploading to YouTube here. So I moved the key light, my number 1, just a little more off to the side. And we'll look at that in a second. And I took that second one, the rim light back here, and I positioned it off the other shoulder. I thought like maybe I'd do the key here and the rim here, and then off to this side I'm going to put a fill light. And then we'll figure out if we want to put a light back here on the background. So, but let's, just so we can show a variety of different things to use, that light in the background there, what I want to do is eliminate it from illuminating the scene back here, that background. It's not like it's doing it that much, but I just want to show what you could do here. So you can turn on some barn doors for the, and we can move those different flaps and change where the light's affecting it. So I'm going to narrow it just a little bit, just to make sure it's not touching anything that I don't want it to touch. So actually, let's just do this in here. I think there's the setting for it. Yeah, barn door top. Let's just do them all together. You can see it's opening up. You can see how it's affecting the shadow back here in the interactive rendering. So if I make that closed enough, you can see it gets darker, so it's only affecting the character, right? So, and that could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing, just depends, but I just want you to be aware that you can put this on the object itself. So let's leave it right there. A little harder shadow. Of course, we're going to eliminate that here in a second when we add that fill. And I'm going to click here and hit escape so we have the IPR going. I will tell you that, well, we'll do it here with this next light. Let's go to, I'll just show you a little trick that I'm realizing. So we got that one there. So 1, 2, let's add a third light. And let's go to the top view, and we'll go T. And let's send this down below. Let's actually scale it. Oops. And let's go back to our view here. Okay. Sorry, I got pulled away there. Had to pause, so I'm not even sure where I left off. Let's go ahead and hit render. Okay, so I've got that other light in there. You know, one thing I'm going to do, just so I can, so using color is a good idea just because lights have temperature, okay? But I think also as you're trying to figure out the contribution of a light to a scene, it's not a bad idea to turn that color up. And then let's go back here. There we go. Right? So even if I didn't want to use that warm color, even though I'm kind of thinking that might be the way to go here on this, similar to the example I had before, it's sometimes helpful to do that so that you can see how the color is basically painting the sculpture in the scene, if you want to think of it that way, right? So we're just kind of softening what's going on there. Let's go back to escape there, and we'll go back to perspective. Maybe let's just change the shape and see what we get here. Let's go with the disc. Oops. My bad. Go back to camera 1. Okay. So we can go ahead and tweak this if we want. And again, it seems to update a little bit better as I'm doing this with the little channel. We can, the other part, we can also override color and use temperature. So if you go to the hardware store and you look at the light bulbs, you will see, you can see I'm getting kind of a warm glow here. So I just set the temperature for that bulb, or for that light, to 4800 Kelvin. That's what these numbers refer to. So candlelight is 2700. 4400 is something, oops, 4400. Right, so I don't know what it just did there. 48. Just going to tweak that down a little bit. Okay, so that's fine. So we're getting a good balance. We still don't think this is maybe the best example here. I'd maybe tone this down. It's getting a little washed out in that, so I might tweak it, but for now I'm going to call that good. I want to spend all the time. And then I'm going to add one more light. This one I'm going to put it behind the character and point it back up here at the backdrop, and not use it for lighting the character itself. So we'll go ahead and create light. And I don't know, let's try a spotlight this time. And I'm going to put that pretty low down to the ground. And I want to do is create kind of a little shape behind. So I'm going to make this kind of bright right off the bat so I can see it. Then I can adjust it. You can see there's my little point there. Okay, and the spotlight, cone angle, I'm gonna open that up a little bit. Kind of soften that. Okay, so the cone angle itself is just how wide it is. The penumbra angle is the softening here, and an exponent is how quickly it falls off towards the center, if I remember correctly. I'll just leave that there. We can load IES maps and things like that, but we're not going to do that. Okay, so I think that's in pretty good shape. You know, we could spend forever working on this, I think, as a lighting setup. but we're certainly getting some something that's a little more dramatic. I don't know if it's as good as what we did with the first one. Let's go all the way back here. In fact, I'm kind of intrigued with that one, right? So I think there's something really going on that's cool with that. So let's go back to that light. And what we had, I think we had something like 18. So really bright, kind of hot. We're getting that glow in there. Yeah, kind of like that, right? And maybe we don't need the barn doors on that one. So that light's going to spill across everywhere. So we're getting the brightness here, but it's also angling across down to the bottom. So we're getting this blue, and it's mixing with that other spotlight that we have here. So we're creating some interesting patterns and shapes across that space. So I'm going to pause this real quick and do just a complete render because we're just doing the IPR with little low samples. So we'll come back here in a second and look at a full render. Okay, so set this up to do a final render. Actually, as I was going through this, so this is where we started with the default light. We had added 2 lights here. We were playing with that background. Mixing up here. This is when we started adding this second fill light. They're really happy with what exactly all was happening with that fill light. So I set this up, I put some barn doors on this. As I was doing this, I thought I was intrigued by the idea that the light was coming in the background more so. It's a little more dramatic, right? And I like that this rim light is cutting across the backdrop here, and then we have this spotlight creating a nice arc. I toned down that original fill light, so we're just getting a little bit of light here, and the fill light here on this other side, I turned it into a spotlight to just emphasize this little area, right? So, I think I would tweak this a little bit. There's some settings that we could use to reduce the graininess a little bit, but, it's a good idea to experiment with these setups. You should know how 3-point lighting works, but it's also a good idea to turn that on its head sometimes and explore other options. So anyways, hope that helps.